you trying to get crazy with this scene? Don't you know I'm loco?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think we can both expand our range just from communicating and stuff. Like my artwork was more about, hey, I'm gonna do this because it's funny. I'm this, and then hanging out with Chikle, you know, he does a lot of stuff that's kind of inspirational or you know, stuff with a lot of thought. And I've seen my work kind of go in that direction because I see, you know, this positive message that he puts out.
What's happening, everybody? This is Bobby Ruiz, a.k.a. Bobby Tribal. Once again, it's time for that Lower Left podcast right here at 17th and Island, San Diego, California. I'm here with my man, Johnny B. Good.
What's up?
What's up, Johnny?
How's everything?
It's good.
I was here last Friday for Black Friday, and it was a good time. Well, actually, we recorded too, right?
Was that last? That was two Fridays ago.
Time flies, right? When you're spending money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we are again. And we're not recording as much as we should just because we're so damn busy.
Yeah,
doing
busy.
shit and moving around. But today we got two local cats. I'm sure that if you're from San Diego or anywhere else, you probably have seen their artwork. These dudes make a lot of noise right here in SD, and I thought it would be cool to bring them by together because they work together, and a lot of times you hear one name and then you hear the other one right after all the time. So you guys are kind of like, you still have that spot in Logan. But anyways, we got Ricardo Islas and Chikle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what's happening, Chikle?
Yeah.
So what's your real name?
That's it. Yeah. No, most people for many years, that's all they've known me by. But
that's all I've ever
heard. My
real
name is Enrique.
Did everyone
Enrique
call you
Lugo.
that from when you were little, or is that later on?
No, later
artist
on.
name?
My artist name. I'm real shy, so most people. I always think people don't remember me. But then when I started doing art, I started signing everything as Chikle, and that's how people got to know me. And
So you came up with the name yourself?
No, a buddy in high school, Robert. I always had gum. And then one day he said, "Hey, what's up, En Chikle?" instead of Enrique.
Uh-huh.
And from there, like only a few of my friends would call me that. But you know, growing up, loving graffiti, and at the time I would see all the writers would have their name on their hats and, you know, all that. Like I wanted to do that. So I started writing it here and there. And when I did an art show the first time, that's how I signed my work. And then it just stayed. It stuck.
So you used to do graffiti?
I enjoyed it. I never went out there. I never was part of a crew or anything like that. But my friends were into it and, you know, always drawing. And, you know, if you're from San Diego growing up here, you know, behind the post office and all the T-shirt, all the gear from the, you know, 90s, that's all I saw. So that's everything I ever tried to emulate and, you know, have my own.
It was forced upon everybody in San Diego.
Well, we were lucky though.
Yeah.
You see how he carefully crafted. You didn't actually do it, like deface any property allegedly.
No, of course not.
Oh,
of course not.
That's right. That's quite the observation there, Johnny.
Damn.
Yeah.
He only used chalk.
Dry erase markers.
Right. How about as a kid, were you always like into art, and tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how the art came to be.
Well, I grew up here in San Diego in Paradise Hills. And growing up, my dad, you know, he's from Guadalajara, and he grew up loving cartoons and, you know, superheroes. So he would always paint in our kitchen. You know, I would see him painting in there, especially towards the holidays. He would get down with, you know, like holiday scenes and landscapes and snow and, you know, self-taught. I think more than anything, I think he was just experimenting.
Yeah.
But that's all I saw. So then I was constantly drawing. And, you know, once I got into junior high and a lot of my friends were making art and drawing and writing. So I just never stopped. you know, so the black books, anything, any paper, napkins, you know. So I've always enjoyed art, but that I never saw that as a thing I could do, you know, because I didn't grow up going to art shows or, you know, being exposed to that. And then my parents are more, you know, traditional, conservative. So even going to like Chicano Park Day, that was not something, not until I was a young adult did I go on my own, you know, because also not being from the area, you know, I knew my boundaries.
Logan was Logan. Like,
yeah, exactly. Not the way people know it now.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something that I'm trying to change, you know, for my kids and in our community. We had a little coffee shop where we were doing art shows, and now there's community events, and, you know, hoping that any kid that's kind of like me that, you know, and I think now with social media is different, but still to see it in person in your own neighborhood and realize like, dang, I could have my art up and make, you know, a couple bucks here and there.
Yeah.
That's really important to me.
And have a good time with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a trip. Like 9 out of 10 artists that we have in here always have a childhood like figure, like their father figure or somebody that they emulated, I guess, or like saw them drawing and then they became artists. It comes in your blood, I guess, right? Yeah, because you guys all derived. Here's my theory. You guys derived from the people that drew in the cave. You guys all came from that guy right there. Defacing.
That's our ancestor.
Yeah. Bombing inside the pyramid. So locally, who did you see? Because you said you weren't going to art shows and all that. Back then, there wasn't a lot of art shows to go to.
No.
And even now, you know, there's certain shows that'll pop up now and then. But, you know, back then we were learning from what we saw on the streets or on T-shirts or in magazines, graffiti mags or what have you. Who stood out to you in your early days, like as inspiration?
I mean, Zodak, you know, Dice. Those were the two that, like, just their style, their drawings, you know, and all the stuff they were doing on T-shirts. Like, that's where I would see it first. And on the streets, I mean, at the time in the 90s, there was a lot of graffiti in San Diego that was really good. Yeah. You know, like, you name it, the 805 or the 5, wherever you were seeing, you know, big things every day. And then I rode the bus from Paradise Hills to Point Loma. So, you know, along the way, there was a few riders that would be on the bus and they'd be teaching me things. And so, yeah, but those are probably the two biggest names that stick out.
Those are probably because those are the two biggest names, I think, out of San Diego. I mean, Zodak hasn't really been in the scene or active for several years now, at least. But his impact was so strong for the time that he did it. I mean, he's still tattooing, but it was so strong and powerful and became international because of what he did with, you know, with Tribal, with his tattooing, and then with Top to Bottom, that he became that guy that his name comes up all the time. Yeah. But he's reclusive sometimes. You know, he's hard to he'll pop in. He'll pop out. He'll come around for, you know, we'll see him, and then all of a sudden, poof, and he's gone, and you know, you can't, you know, get a hold of him or, you know, whatever. But he is, I'd say, like the legendary now. You know, as far as San Diego art and graffiti, he's a legendary dude, and he's become iconic. You know, Dies, we could go find him right now if you want.
Yeah, that guy's busy. He's painting somewhere right now.
Yeah, he's right here. Probably he's either in the studio down the street, or I know he was working on a big piece in Escondido. He was here. I mean, he comes in all the time.
I've seen that. He finished it.
He did, like, two of them.
There's a San Diego right next to it, and then there's like a barbershop.
Cutthroat.
That's big.
Yeah, Cutthroat. I think it's a barbershop in Esco or something like that. So now you're, you know, what's a trip to me is what you do professionally for work. So tell us about that. And Ricardo has mentioned to me that they softened the term a little bit, or something's going on with that.
Yeah. My title. Yeah. So I, again, like I always was into art. I was encouraged to go to college because my sister.
Where'd you go?
I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh, nice.
My sister's 10 years older than me, and she was the academic one. You know, like I don't know who her ancestors were. If mine were cavemen, like I don't know who hers were. Like, you know. But she went college, 10 years older than me. So my whole life, they told me I had to go. So I went as far as I could, you know, where it wasn't too far, but far enough to get away from home. And at the time, I was discouraged from pursuing art. So I just picked something, and at the time I was screen printing, and I saw that there was a program up there that had screen printing. So I selected that, graphic communication. I learned everything you can know about paper, ink, printing presses. But then by the time I graduated, the digital had hit, and everyone had a desktop printer, you know, and it changed the industry. So I couldn't find a job. And then I worked at an after school program, and that kind of set me on a path that a few years later, I became an art teacher. And then now I'm a vice principal, but at my school, we call it Dean of Students. And recently I changed it to Dean of Culture. So basically I'm there supporting students, supporting staff, and, you know, trying to showcase something different.
So why did they change the name? Like, why is it no longer, is it just at your school that it's not called the vice principal, or is it something they're trying to do throughout? I
think at all schools it changed. At all schools now it's assistant principal instead of vice principal. And at our school, it's a charter school. So even principal is director, you know, vice principal, assistant principal, dean of students. And I think it is because we're trying to, you know, I work at High Tech High, which is project-based learning. So more hands-on, more experiences, more field trips, more community engagement, you know, partnership. And really, in my opinion, bringing joy into learning, you know, and like, what do we remember from high school? Like, I remember being in a physics class and the little carritos on the ramp. That's all I remember. I don't know what I learned, but I remember that. You know, and I think for our students, that's what we're trying to provide, is an experience that when they look back 10, 15, 20 years from now, like, they still remember what they did. And that's how we learn, right? Not by memorizing and, you know, filling in a blank or doing a Scantron test. Like, that just shows how well you can memorize something for a few hours. Right. And then it's gone. Right. So I think that's why the titles, the way we do things, you know, is different. And it's hard for our students sometimes to realize what they're doing and that they're learning, you know, and for parents too. Like, what do you mean there's no homework? What do you mean, like, there's no test? Like, how's my kid learning? You know, and it's like, well, like, they are, because they're doing it. And when you have a conversation, like today, some kids were outside, you know, and I always mess with kids, like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're playing with this car, like, see if the sun powers it. I was like, well, how does that work? Well, it's a solar panel. Okay, how does a solar panel work? Well, there's, you know, water inside, and there's, you know, hydrothermal, whatever. Like, they start getting down. I'm like, oh, shoot, like, thank you for teaching me. You know, I didn't know that. But they're able to talk about it because they see it in action. Yeah. Whereas I mean, I don't know about you all, but for me, I would have been sitting, listening to someone talk at me. And I'm supposed to remember that, you know, because I took notes and I sat there quietly. Whereas these kids are outside on their own with no adult, you know, doing their thing. And then they come back in and do their report. So
that makes a lot of sense, because one thing that I learned, I tell people what I learned in college was I learned how to learn. I learned how to grasp concepts and ideas and to, you know, read and write, obviously. But it's like you said, I took an astrology class or astronomy. I don't remember which one it was, but it was hard as hell. I worked my ass off. I aced it. I can't tell you shit about it now, but I knew that here's what I needed to know. Here are my notes. Here are my 3x5 cards. Study, ace the test. And then by the time that class was over, I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm over it. Yeah. And, you know, you don't really learn anything because you're too busy trying to, like you said, you're too busy trying to memorize things and trying to, like, you know, take notes. Whatever, you know, whatever that is, that too. But there's distractions for sure. Yeah. But when you're actually you're doing something, that's what you're going to memorize.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's the school's kind of sounds like a very contemporary, new approach type school.
Yeah, and everything. I mean, even my office, is covered in art. From the years that I was an art teacher, I would keep some things from the students, or they would leave stuff behind with me. And then I brought some of my own stuff and friend stuff that I have in there. And so the space is different. They were gonna get rid of some couches. I threw some sarapes on them and decked out the whole space. And now, went from being an office where you went to if you were in trouble. Now I got kids coming in just to hang out and talk, which is what I want. I want them to come in because most kids, when they're, misbehaving or quote unquote misbehaving, right? Because an adult assumes that, and we interpret their actions as like, oh, they're disrespectful, they're being defiant, like all these labels that we have. Most of the time, like they're just going through something. Right. So I open my door and, I don't connect with all the kids, but a lot of them I'm able to just talk through things with them. Like what's going on, my job or, my family or finances, whatever. And so it's a trip because kids will just walk in, and so I feel like I'm starting to have a space for them to, have an adult that's there to listen and hopefully help them get something off their chest so that they could go back and then experience school the way we hope they do, right? With no other worries or stresses or anxiety, and I think too, right now, going back after COVID, being at home, distance learning, like there's just so much like mental health stuff that's coming up with our students and adults. But with our students in particular, because there's so many things that are out of their control that are stressing them out. And, a lot of them don't have the language. And so again, we see it, in how they're reacting to teachers or walking out, doing their thing. And like, it's reminding ourselves that for a year, they were doing school on a device and we don't know where they were. They could have been walking around. They could have been doing something else. Mm-hmm. And now they're back in a building. So it's almost like getting them used to it again. Of like, what does that look like, to be in a classroom and to have to let your teacher know, like, yo, I'm going to go outside. I need a break. I'm going to go outside so I can take my mask off. Like all these things that like you can do, but just like let one of us know. So that's been a lot of our conversations right now, just reminding them like, hey, if you need something, tell us. We're here for you. And for them, I think sometimes too, they haven't heard that before from an adult, Mm-hmm. So it's a cool space. It's not perfect, but I'm really happy
Nothing
there.
is.
Exactly. And so just trying to do my thing, be different.
How many are there of those campuses in San Diego?
Yeah, there's one in Chula Vista, K through 12, in Point Loma, K through 12, in the Mesa, Claremont, Mesa, Kearney Mesa, that general area, there's one, and then San Marcos. So
where did that concept come from?
It started, I think, in the early 2000s, when the local tech industry was noticing that they were getting folks coming in who, again, like knew their stuff, but weren't good at communicating. The social skills weren't there. So they wanted to create a different type of school that would teach youth how to collaborate, work on projects, do that kind of stuff that schools don't generally prepare us for, and I always say this to especially in our math classes. I remember in math, and I used to sit right in front of the teacher, not by choice. And he would be on the...
Not by choice. You got to sit right here.
Yeah.
Right?
I was a good kid.
Yeah.
But, they had the projector and the whole class, you just watched him do his thing on the projector and you were taking notes, right?
Yep.
If I talked to my boy Johnny next to me, what was going to happen? Hey, detention or go outside or go see the counselor, right? Now the teacher talks for a few minutes and then the students work together. And I was telling him, like, man, that's a trip to me because you're talking to your peers about the answer. And I was always taught that was cheating. I was like, go figure, like this is how we learn. We learn in community. And so there's like all these things that are happening. And so going back to your question, that's what they wanted, right? They wanted to get people into the tech industry, the STEAM or STEM, but have folks that could like do this. Yeah. Let's talk, have personality and bring that to the table. And I think it's been more than that, obviously. But that's how it started out. originally with just one high school.
There's it's just a completely different approach. So do you still teach art and do art on campus, or when do you find time for your art?
Well, you know what's funny is lately we have a lot of kids that like to wander. And there's a few that
actually physically wander, or
like not in the space they should be, but I noticed
that's
that
crazy.
They like to write.
Even that they're allowed to wander on campus.
Yeah.
That's part of the way the campus is. So if you just feel like,
within our building, I should say within our building, but there are those two that I'm constantly like, Liberty Station is pretty big, right? It's like if you do a whole loop, it's like a 2-mile walk. So some of them, yes, I have a couple that like to cruise around. We have conversations about that because it's not allowed. But again, I feel like the more we can communicate and just be honest, the more supportive we can be. And I think the end result is those kids are going to stay in. They're walking out because they need something. So I feel like my role is to figure out what they need so I could keep them in the classroom and they'll be good, But there's others that wander around inside the building. And so I bring them into my office and we start writing, pick a word, let's all draw it, and it's been cool. So that's how I've been getting my art in at school.
Yeah.
Cause I don't teach anymore. I'm more just there to support. And, I wander around the school myself, checking in with kids, try to joke around and
counsel.
Yeah. But that's my opportunity to do art. And it's been kind of cool,
And
doing some letters.
So when do you do like the majority of your artwork at home?
At home, yeah. In the
Most
evenings.
of it's still drawn and painted or digital?
I do a little bit of both. Like I brought y'all a little something. I don't know if I got the right size, but but this is something like a good example of what I do, where it's a mix of digital. Started with a hand drawing, and then I take it into the computer.
Thank you.
So I love to draw, pencil, paper, tracing paper, drawing pens. And then I've been doing some painting too. And what's a trip is I do it in our kitchen area, dining area is all connected. And that's where my wife and I do our painting. So
she paints as well?
Yeah, Selena. So like our kids are growing up with that same kind of experience. I don't know if it'll be a part of their future, but at least they're seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you never know. Like I've exposed my kids to a bunch of stuff, and some of it stuck and some of it didn't. It just turns out like whatever they're into, I guess.
Or they're like, I want to do the complete opposite.
Exactly. What about you, Ricardo? Where'd you grow up, and how'd you get into art and what you were doing? I know you've used to do some punk rock show posters and stuff.
I grew up in Calexico, California, in Pearl Valley, and moved up here in 91. But when I was down there, I was big into the punk scene, death metal scene, so I was always doing flyers, or I was never, maybe I would have been a good student if I went to a school like that, but...
Dude, everybody would have been a good...
I want to work. Can I apply?
Jeez.
Yes, actually.
As a student.
Dang it.
Yeah, I was a terrible student. I was just always, distracted by drawing. Whatever assignment it was, math, I always had doodles. And I moved up here, and just because there's no opportunity over there for jobs and stuff, the unemployment rate is super high over there. So I had studied to be a mechanic. I went to college a couple years over there, and then I came up here because San Diego City College had a program that will get your foot in the door to a place. So when I first moved here, I'm like, I found those apartments next to the Jewel Box had just opened.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, fuck yeah.
When it was the Jewel Box.
Yeah. I'm like,
and since then it turned in
Monkey Paw.
Monkey Paw. Now it's called Bottle Rocket. Yeah.
So I was like, fuck, dude, next door to a bar, I'm in. And then AM/PM across the street, and then
La pura vida.
But then I found out that AM/PM doesn't sell beer, so I'm like, fuck. But you can buy 12 packs at the Jewel Box.
Yeah.
But so I moved there, and everybody I met there is people that I know now. Like Dice used to hang out there. That's where I met him. Mario Vasquez and Oscar. I met them there, and they're friends since then. And Monchis and Kiko and all those guys.
Everybody hung out there.
Yeah, everybody. Channel.
Yeah.
Who's
a professor now.
Yeah. Southwestern.
Yeah.
I did one of his book covers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but they didn't even know I did art, because, they were into a different scene and I was still into like the death metal scene and all that, except Monchis tripped me out because I thought, he's just a homeboy, but he was big into Slayer and stuff and all that.
And then Billy worked there too.
Billy
and then Billy turned into an actor / biker /
Billy and Suicidal Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I met all those dudes when I first
Dave
moved here.
Haney.
Yeah, Dave Haney.
He was an old tribal model for us. He did a couple photo shoots for us.
Yeah, so everybody in there was wearing tribal.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd go there once in a while. That was a spot.
Yeah, so then when they did the first show at Museum of Automotive Museum, the Lowrider show.
Oh yeah.
I think that's when you met Oscar, right? That you
Like
gave him a
right before
T-shirt to
that.
put in the car.
Yeah.
And then so we've all become friends, and I think that's kind of inspired both of us, because like when people ask me what do I paint, like I kind of find it hard to explain. Like, okay, like I don't even know, is it pop surrealism? Is it,
You know what I see? I'd say, and this is you kind of do. And here's the thing: like some people, I'm an artist. I'm not a female artist. I'm not a Chicano artist. I'm not a Japanese American artist. I'm an artist. But then there's the Chicanismo that just shines through. It's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? I think what I've seen you do is kind of like what I would call it, and hopefully you're cool with it, is you do like a Chicano parody.
yeah.
Like your pieces look fun. And so do Chikle's. Looks like you guys have a good time. Like, look at the shirt you got on right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a homeboy Shamu standing like a homeboy, and he's got a 40 in his hand with a belly tattoo. It says killer. you know what I mean? It's Chicano parody, but it's fun. It has a good time, and it's badass. It's super cool. What do you call that one?
This one's just called Killer Whale.
Yeah,
Or
but a
in
lot of
Macron.
which, like,
Yeah,
there's
I modify
there's
stuff.
one that I wish I would have bought. And you already know which one that is. That I just slept on it for too long, and when I finally asked him about it, it had just sold.
Yeah, I had it forever.
Danny
too.
bought it.
Danny Los Titos.
Yeah, Danny from Los Titos bought it. It was the Operation.
Oh, yeah.
There was that old Operation game that was like a homeboy, and dude, that thing was badass.
They're just classic Chicano tattoos instead of bones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you ever do prints of that or anything?
yeah. I have prints, and I think it's gonna be a T-shirt soon.
Yeah, that was. Did you see that one, Johnny?
Yeah, I seen
That
it.
was badass. So so you've been, dude, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I probably painted that. What was that? The Toys R Us show. That was probably like in 2003.
Yeah.
It's when I first started painting toys. There was a coffee shop back in the early 2000s, Chicano Perk.
Chicano Perk, yeah.
And so when they opened up in National City, they gave me a solo show over there at the new shop too. And so I had this concept of that toys were all represented white people. So I wanted to do a twist on classic American toys, but Chicano versions of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I titled the show Toys R Us, and that's kind of where all those toys first started.
Mm-hmm.
The little people that I do, and the Chicano Operation.
Oh yeah, what are there? Those are the
Fisher Price little people.
they're like round. Yeah, you do a lot of those.
And then I
huh?
do the weeble wobbles. I call them my huevo wobbles.
a huevo wobble
Yeah.
because you don't got no legs, and he's round on the bottom, so a huevo is gonna wobble. Right? That's cool.
So I do a lot of toys that I grew up with and just modify them to a Chicano version of them. And I tell people, like, recently, like, when they ask us, like, when they say, what do you paint? I say, I just paint experiences. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a conversation or we're fucking around. And, like, there's a painting, like, Oscar, when he was living near Massachusetts Street.
Uh-huh.
He said he had a neighbor that he'd take Viagra, and the guy would say, oh, man, me puse bien blue de emo en la noche. And so I went home and I painted this old guy wrestler. And he's got like the bullets, but they're little Viagra pills. And one's missing, and he's wearing the Blue Demon mask. And the girl's like, oh, shit. Because there's lightning bolts popping up. And it's just through conversations like that, talking to friends or at a bar that you're laughing about something. And that spurs on a painting.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. So when did you start painting? So before you started doing the flyers and stuff, you were...
Yeah, before I just drew. I just used to draw. It was more kind of like the original Beavis and Butthead, where it was all shaky, or kind of like Rat Finkish stuff with the teeth all jacked up. Because that's what I would see like in the punk albums and stuff like that. And then probably in '99, I took a painting class at Mesa College, and the painting teacher is Robert Sanchez. He still teaches there. He's a Chicano artist, and he kind of, once I started painting, he kind of saw where I was going, and he just like was a big influence on me. You know, I started introducing me to everybody that he knew, got my foot in the door, and then once I did a show, then Taco Shop Poets saw my work, and from there it's just taken off. You know, they gave me my first solo show at the first Voz Alta.
Where do you primarily sell your and you still knocking out paintings?
Yeah.
How many paintings do you think you do a year?
This couple of years has, with, you know, I told you I broke my foot. I took a year break, and then now I've just been doing commissions, and now I'm just getting ready for a bunch of shows in 2022.
I know of a big one in 2022. This is going to be the daddy show.
Yeah.
But you can constantly paint.
Yeah. I just wait till everybody's asleep, and then I just paint. It's kind of hard to paint when everybody's awake in the house. And
so you guys you still have this shop in Logan?
No, we closed the shop Golondrina. We closed it during COVID. It was a small space, and it was just hard, you know, to stay open.
It's more the personnel, man. Like, if you're not there, then you got to pay somebody to be there. And most people, they don't want to be there. And then you do the math on something like that. And if it's costing you $100 a day just to have somebody there, or más o menos $100 a day, and you're paying, you know, there's more than $2,000 a month just to have somebody watching the spot. And if your rent's like, you do the math, it's like, is it worth it? You know?
And that's the thing. We were just getting to the point where we were considering adding someone to the team to be open every day of the week. Cause for the first 2 years we were open for 3 years, and then COVID hit, would have been our 4th year. And we were only open weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was great. You know, there's 6 artists in there. But
I thought it was just you two.
No, Ricardo was in there. Like, we had his stuff in there, and we had a few other artists in there. But then one of our partners opened up a spot with another local artist. And so we all kind of support them. It's called Malbicho, and, you know, Ricardo has his stuff in there, prints, t-shirts, stickers. So we, you know, I feel like everything we do is collaborative and supporting one another. Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
At a bar.
Yeah, actually, a friend of my painting teacher, like, he knew this lady, and she was working with Chikle, and she told him, "Oh, you got to meet Ricardo." And so we met at Voz Alta and next door.
Because your work kind of ties together real nicely. Yeah. Like, they're not the same style, but you also do parody type stuff.
Yeah, and it's the same, you know, as Ricardo described it, of conversations, or for me too, like music lyrics a lot of times, or, you know, like the tea I just handed you, like I saw the Mr. Rooter logo one day, and I was like, oh shit, like I know what I could do with that.
There you go.
You know, so it's things like that, you know, again, like, how do we make things more relevant and more visible for people in our communities? Yeah, we met at Landlord Jim's.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Landlord Jim's was a spot. But I was always intimidated by Ricardo, because, you know, he's a big dude. He used to have big, long hair, you know, and his drinking buddy at the time was probably the same size, you know, bail bondsman, Jaime. And they'd always have this, like, they had a section at the bar, like only they stood there.
Damn.
You know?
Like Cheers, huh?
Like a Chicano Debo.
Yeah. So then, like, a mutual friend introduced me. And at the time I was in my head kind of figuring out, like, can I be an artist? You know, like, what do I got to do? And one of my first conversations with him was, I showed him on paper, like, something I was trying to do. And I asked him for feedback, and that kind of kicked it off. You know, he started giving me advice and feedback. And then, you know, a few months later gave me or maybe a year, I don't know, gave me my first opportunity to show in a gallery setting at the Ice Gallery. And then from there, for me, that's when it took off for me. But thanks to Ricardo.
You know what's cool about your guys' art? Like Bobby said, it's like similar but different, but also you can tell it's authentic because right when you look at your art, like if you're from this community or this culture, like you know what you guys are working or you know what you're trying to interpret through your art. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think we both feed off of each other. Like, you know, like I'll be working on stuff and I'll send them images before I put it out, and he sends me images and stuff. And
How honest are you guys with each other?
we're pretty honest.
So do you go like, I think it sucks?
No,
No?
yeah, we're pretty honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. It's important to have that. Like, it's
Yeah.
really important to have somebody. And that's what I tell my guys too. Whenever we're working on design or graphics or, you know, we're considering putting something out, it's like, I'm asking you because I want your honest opinion.
Yep.
Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. Tell me like how we're you know, on the same team. But sometimes the guys, that's not happening. That sucks. And I'll be like, okay, that's cool. It sucks. But sometimes they'll go, that sucks. And I'll be like, no, I'm the boss. We're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think we can both expand our range just from communicating and stuff. Like my artwork was more about, hey, I'm gonna do this because it's funny. I'm this, and then hanging out with Chikle, you know, he does a lot of stuff that's kind of inspirational or you know, stuff with a lot of thought. And I've seen my work kind of go in that direction because I see, you know, this positive message that he puts out. So all of a sudden I'm doing other pieces that, you know, have more of that type of message.
A little more depth.
Yeah, where before I was just like, hey, man, I just want to fuck around and do this, you know, more because I was in the punk type stuff. And, you know, where now I feel expanded more from
What punk
watching
rock
him.
bands were you into?
Circle Jerks, Black Flag, Misfits, stuff like that.
Would they go to Calexico or you'd have to travel to
No,
see
I
them?
would have to travel.
Mostly to San Diego?
Yeah, unless it was at San Diego, we'd go to San Bernardino to shows and just everywhere. Or they would go to Mexicali. Mexicali was a huge punk scene. There was a huge punk scene over
Really?
there. Yeah.
In Mexicali?
Yeah, that's huge.
We used to go there when we were kids. They had there was a couple things I remember about Mexicali. One, there's Chinese food.
Yeah, Chinese food.
They've got like a real strong Chinese community there, right?
Yeah.
And then there was this stuff called carne en su jugo
Yeah.
that was bomb. Dude.
Yeah.
And it'd get hot as fuck out there. Huh.
Dude, I used to go to this flauta place in Mexicali, and then they didn't have change one time. He goes, hey, go next door and get some change. And this is in the middle of the summer, 12 noon, and I walk into the place next door, and there's this long counter, and it's all burners, and they have, you know, those ollas de barro, but they're like this big.
Oh,
And there's
shit.
about 12 of them lined up, and every single one of them is boiling, and it's 125 degrees outside.
Damn.
So in there, everybody was sweating, and it's, I guess people, you know, some people are like, hey, when it's hot, I want soup.
Yeah, I don't
And I
get
was like,
that.
I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna get flautas. I'm not gonna go in there. I was like sweating the minute I walked in there. It's like a sauna in there. I'm like, how the fuck can you work there?
Have you ever tried it? Soup when
No.
it's hot?
Yeah, I've had.
Does
it
it work?
I don't know. I could see where it.
Where's
does, but
hotter than Mexicali, bro?
Not much. Saudi Arabia.
yeah.
Right? So what are you guys working on now? You doing anything collaborative or projects, or are you guys just painting for upcoming shows?
Yeah, I'm painting for. I have a show in San Antonio, Texas, in April. Me and 2 Albuquerque artists.
Badass. That's,
Yeah, so
that's
that's
sick.
what I'm working
So
on.
you're doing out of state shows and
Yeah, I'm doing that, and then in August, me and Chikle and like 8 other San Diego artists are going out to Albuquerque.
August.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to go to Albuquerque. I have some friends out there, and I do. Actually, the longest running domestic tribal customer is in Albuquerque. It's called All City Paint. It used to be called LA Underground. This dude named Smooch. But they've been with us longer than any other store in the United States, and they're in Albuquerque.
And they're still the store.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
They still do their thing, man.
there's a lot of MMA fighters out there too.
In Albuquerque,
Yeah, because of the elevation, a lot of them train out there.
Mike Giant's from out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you guys spend a lot of time in Logan in the community?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Yeah, I used to, not so much. Since COVID hit, I haven't been out as much. Recently, we've been going out, participating at, Copal y Tierra and the Bread and Salt, trying to support the local businesses and stuff too.
What do you think about the change that has happened in Logan in the last, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Man, I mean, I have mixed opinions because I was a business owner, there contributing. And part of the reason we went for it and opened there next to Por Vida and Beatbox was better us than someone else that doesn't know the community. And I think one thing that I'm always thinking about is like, how are we supporting the locals to be ready to invest and to take those spaces and to purchase land, and I think right now the real estate there is like outrageous, so for local families to be able to afford to buy their homes or a home is probably very difficult, but at what point do we, like, what can we do to help educate them to position themselves to be able to, because we all talk about, and I know in one of the episodes you talk about gentrification and all that, and
yeah,
I feel like that's a hard topic because no one's doing anything to help people be in a position to buy.
Very difficult topic.
Yeah, so
the guests that we had, it was Hector and Lucas.
That's right.
Both very well spoken, and they knew the subject top to bottom. Like, and I learned a lot from that episode. And there's no perfect answers. There's a lot of opinion. But then, my questions were always like these families that could be struggling, being offered opportunity to send their kids to college or to send to take care of their parents and grandparents, to, maybe send their kids to different schools or whatever it is, because somebody wants to come in and give them, 2 times market value for their property. And that's a tough decision to make. But then who is this person buying it, and what are their what are their intentions?
Exactly.
And how much do they respect, or will they respect the community and the history that's in that community? Yeah. But it's a national, maybe an international thing that happens, and we've seen it. I don't know, the artist district downtown LA, back in the 90s, the early 90s, Risk had a studio there. Slick had a studio there. My friend Mike, Sucker Mike, had a studio there. Stevan and Cartoon had their studio there. And it was way worse than what we have here in the East Village. Homeless people everywhere. And it was closer to the neighborhood. So there was violence and there was stuff like that. Now, fuck, man, it's untouchable. It's just the skyrocketed through the roofs. But I think, people that are able to hold on to their properties and make decisions, or have people that can help them make those decisions and get past all of it and be able to hand that over to the next generation, then there could be something there. But it depends on the surroundings. Like, how is this neighborhood going to change?
Yeah.
Like where's it going? But
because even like when the Mercado apartments opened up, they've been drumming at Chicano Park for years, like the danzantes. Then the Mercado apartments opened up, and they complained about the drums. Yeah, like they move in, and all of a sudden they're dictating, "Hey, what the fuck are these drums?"
Yeah, that's what Hector was talking about.
Yeah, so that's what happens,
It's like moving next to an airport and then complaining that there's an airport there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good, that's
what happened to the Green Circle Bar.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I remember that well.
The condos went up and they complained about the music. When they moved in after
that was a ladies' home, or it was on the corner right there. Yeah.
Yeah, they complained about the music. And it's like
Man, he said the Green Circle.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Green Circle?
It's a bar?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was like a jazz bar.
It was kind of a hip hop thing too. They used to do like hip hop stuff there too.
Yeah, I think the Roots were there. Damn. And what's his name?
We used to do trade show events there. A little trade show
B-side
gathering.
used to play there.
What was that?
It was on the same, where behind the post office was?
Yeah.
The opposite end of that little strip of,
Oh.
not all the way to the other side of the block. It was just the other side of that building.
Yeah.
It was on the corner
Dang.
right there. And there was no sign. It was just a green circle neon. And so it kind of had, and this was before social media. So it had kind of a little underground vibe, and everybody knew the green circle. What's that? You cruise around. Oh shit. That's a, like it was cool. It was simple, but it was, we did some really cool events there too.
Yeah. Taco Shop Poets would perform there, and we did a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
there.
It was cool. And I was wondering what happened there, but Johnny owned it. This dude named, we used to call him Johnny Mace because he would walk around with mace in his pocket all the time to deal with the homeless people and the problems he would encounter there. But there was all kinds of crazy stuff happening.
Do you know who did the mural on the side of, remember Cafe Chabalaba? It was on 16th and C by City College. There was a Stevie Ray Vaughan mural.
Oh, that was probably Richard Martinez.
That was a fucking badass.
It was probably Richard Martinez because that was during the same time period, and him and I both were really into Stevie Ray Vaughan.
That was a badass mural.
Oh, what was it? 16th and what?
C.
So that's this 16th right here. Oh, by City.
Yeah, it was the block behind Landlord Jim's.
I'm sure it had to be Richard Martinez, and the only other person that was doing that type of work back then may have been Saki. Because Saki always did a lot of
Yeah, it was kind of like that kind of style, but I know it wasn't Saki, but I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
But that was a badass mural.
Yeah. So you kind of jumped around the gentrification question. That was pretty good. It's a tough one, bro.
It is.
It really is, because we all want to see positive change.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to see or positive growth, but we don't want to pull the culture out of it too much, it's but like I said, Lucas is a beast, bro. Like I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
He was really impressive on Johnny.
Yeah, they and they brought up topics like pollution, like air pollution, water pollution, which is something that comes second, I guess, to the obvious, gentrification issue down there. Which is pretty cool. As residents there, they've been dealing with it forever, and they know how fucked up the air is, in the area with the industrial work that goes on over there. And then they also touched on home ownership, land ownership, business ownership, which is something that back in the day, we just whatever, you pay your rent, you go party. But now the world's changed so much outside of, our bubbles that it's encroaching on our area.
Yeah, and those guys are super knowledgeable about you have to be involved. They're in all these environmental committees and stuff like that because just from the Chicano Park experience where they would promise them stuff and then they would have these other meetings that they wouldn't even be invited and they decided, let's approve junkyards and this and that. People that lived there in the 70s had no idea that they had a voice. Yeah. So now like Hector and Lucas and all them, they're like signing up to all these environmental coalitions, and it's like their voice, they're going up there and saying, no, we're not going to let you decide. Like, we got to throw our 2 cents into it. That's pretty cool. The improvement compared to the 70s is knowing that you have a voice for your community.
Yeah.
That, and then also linking up with environmentalist groups, lobbyists, because they're fighting against the big industries that are, protecting their interests at the cost of people's health.
Yeah, and the military and all that.
So
and I think as more that area gets more gentrified, all of a sudden they're gonna you don't like the air. All of a sudden you can see that when white people started complaining about it, all of a sudden there's gonna be maybe we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But when it's a Chicano community talking about it, they just try to shine it off.
Like the roads, right? I mean, you go to neighborhoods that are not as
affluent.
The income. Yeah, there you go. But then you go to La Jolla or one of those, and their roads are nice and paved.
Don't even get me started on the homeless thing. That's a whole other thing. Like, as far as the areas and where they're allowed and where they're not allowed, and So that was a whole other podcast.
I heard that one too.
Yeah, I heard part of
I
that.
didn't blow that one, did I? No, it was important for me to have two people on the show that had been homeless for and I'm not an expert, but I've been right in the middle of it for the last 11 years, just, in this community and seeing the change and everything that goes on with it. But as far as what's happening in Logan, there's no parking.
Yeah.
Like like people are parking in the middle of the street. People are parking blocks away. People are parking in the neighborhoods. And you look on Logan Avenue, there's still a lot of businesses that aren't open or that are trying to open their doors. Or I think there's going to continue to be new businesses coming up, but they have to take care of maybe more of the infrastructure. Like what's going to, or public transportation or something like that. But
yeah.
I don't know, man, but being that Chicano Park's right there, it's and there's some good activists and some good community involvement that
yeah. Well, I think like Lucas and everyone that I think is really pushing for Logan right now is a new generation too, and like talking about people that grew up seeing something, right? Like Lucas' family has been in there his whole life.
Tommy's his grandma, right?
Yeah. So I think having folks like him now stepping up and leading the way and everyone that he's going to energize and bring with them, hopefully will bring more knowledge into the community and empowerment of like your voice matters and let's go to these meetings and let's make some noise. And, hopefully people in my age group who grew up in Logan and are now doing things that maybe can't afford to invest in their neighborhood and their community, like to do that, and just education, like financial literacy of if you own your home, rather than take someone's money, like maybe refinance and there's that money that you need for college or that investment that you want to make. And like, there's so many things that we never learn about, I think in our communities, because like Johnny said, like we grew up seeing our parents hustling, going to work sick and not taking days off, working on holidays, overtime. And that's all we know, but there's all these other things. And, the game that is being played by people that have, like we're not educated in that way. Wealth isn't passed down from one generation to the other with us, like in other experiences. So I think that's a part of the conversation I would like to see happening more, in Logan and Paradise Hills and National City, like, where there's people still like, in the same cycle.
Yeah. Because they don't know like you said, they have no idea that they could get money out of their homes if their home's paid for, if they have equity in their home. So it's educating people. Yeah. Or hopefully that next generation, like you were saying, can help to educate some of these people instead of moving on and moving out.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, right? Like a lot of us grew up, I know folks in my generation, like part of being successful was you left and you went to the nicer part of town, whatever you thought that was. And so for me being there where I grew up, just a few minutes from my parents' house, like it means a lot, but I still see it as kind of transient, like people get to a certain level and then boom, they're gone, and most of the folks that are there are older, there's at least where I'm at, there's no other like young family with kids my age, so like, how do we change that, and I mean, I don't know. It's a big question, right? But how do we help neighborhoods revitalize and become a destination, but still maintain the authenticity? Like that's difficult, right? And I don't know if there's a good example of that because,
honestly, right now, Logan's doing a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk that street and the majority of what you're seeing is still Chicano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's additions that I think are good for the community. I think Arts and Rec is good there.
Yeah.
With the skate park and the whole, skate thing, a nice shop for the kids and for people to do their thing. There's little boutiques here and there. Por Vida, Salud, Barrio Dog, like they're all Chicanos. And then even the Italian restaurant across the street, it's a couple. That place is bomb, bro. Have you been there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Osteria Chichilla.
Yeah. Oh damn.
Yeah, that's it, bro. But that spot is bomb. But then, the mechanics are still there.
Yeah.
The little mom, the liquor store, the Logan Inn.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, they're dug in there.
yeah, the family health center right there.
Around the
Or whatever, where
corner,
the kids are. But it's,
Lucky's Liquor.
Yeah.
but even going to the, there's not many things. But then again, the question is, who owns those buildings? Who owns those
Right.
properties? But as far as culturally, it still feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Border X is there. Like, I don't see, there's no Starbucks or McDonald's, or there's not like anything that's really blowing it. There almost was. There almost was something, remember?
Yeah.
Across the street from Por Vida when they were going to open up the other coffee shop right across the street, and the dude was
that too.
he was a straight dick, and everybody's like, no.
That and the
Thing is
fruteria.
hanging by it.
Oh, yeah, the fruteria.
Right? That's the one I thought
She was,
of.
Oh,
she
yeah.
was gonna save the raza.
Yeah, we're going to save, oh man.
Oops.
But
He's like, we
that's
call it fruteria.
fruteria. But yeah, dude, but see how quickly the community got
Yeah.
together and goes, no, hell no. That's not happening.
And I agree on that sense, like, yes, but I think in a bigger sense, like behind the scenes, is who's collecting all
Right,
that money, right?
right.
Because the rents are not cheap.
Yeah, and as
Right?
soon as the owner decides to up the rents, then who's going to be able to afford that?
But
Only
don't get it
Starbucks
fucked
or-
up too. There's Chicanos in there
Yeah.
that are fucking people.
Oh
They're
yeah,
fucking-
yeah.
They're
No
fucking
doubt.
their own people.
No doubt.
Or they're like, you know what? Let me get in here because I speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
By the language, I mean I speak Chicano or I speak community. So I'm gonna be your guy, and I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna and maybe it's a Chicano-owned building, and I've heard stories and I've seen some things, and I'm like, well, that ain't right. But where everybody's got their guards up, thinking it's gonna be a person other than a Chicano or Latino that's in there gonna be screwing people.
Not always.
See, that's,
Not always.
that's another aspect is the legal side of it. The occupants of any leased space should have a good contract. And if the owner's like sketchy, he's going to give the contract that's best for him versus something that's mutually acceptable. With the long-term lease where it's not going to, the lease payments aren't going to go up at a certain rate. But then, we don't know. We're excited to get in there and show our shit.
Yeah.
So we sign, and then we end up screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, we get a Chicano Park Day in 2022.
Yeah.
Because that's and man, dude, I have pictures from Chicano Park Day 80, 81 when we first started going there, and we pull our cars up, didn't need to register. I think maybe we registered, pull up, open up your doors
There's a lot
to
of
the
space.
cars,
Yeah.
set up a blanket, little fucking picnic table.
Yeah, everybody had their little
chilling.
party blanket.
Yeah, just caking it, dude.
Yeah.
Now it's like you barely open your doors, can barely walk,
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see what I think this year is probably going to be this next one because we missed the 50th, right?
Yeah.
And the 51st.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of that, registrations go out on the 1st, right? It's probably already sold out. With all the-
people already online,
Yeah.
refreshing their page.
But
Yeah.
I think now with the expansion of Chicano Park Day and everybody hanging out on Logan on the block, like I talked to a lot of people like on the 49th that never even made it to Chicano Park.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
they're partying up
At the
and down-
Majestic's
up-
house
up and
or
down at the
down
Majestics or-
over by the
Yeah,
Baguio
because there was
Dog.
cars all the way to the
Yeah,
VFW the
there
last
was
time.
cars all the way over there. So
Well, they blocked off the street all the way down
Mm-hmm.
past. Didn't they the whole street, right?
no,
Just to
it was
that
open.
corner.
It was open, but
What was blocked
people were
off
parked in the
to-
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the streets were open. Now
They
they're
might
gonna
as well
close
just
them.
make that parking now because everybody
Yeah.
parks there anyways. But they did ticket a friend of mine came down and we were parked
yeah.
right there in the middle and they gave him a ticket for the first time.
Damn.
But who knows, man?
I remember Chicano Park Day even in the early 2000s because I used to vend there every year. And I remember there was a year that another mutual friend of ours, Bob Rob, he and I would go vend. And one year we just showed up that morning, posted up, paid our fee and everything. But now, like, there's no way you could just show up, because it's the same thing with the car registrations. If you're not signed up in advance, like, there's no way you'll get in. So,
But it's the baddest. I
changed.
mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
better in Southern California than
No.
Chicano Park Day, and it's free for the community.
Yeah.
Everybody just you pull up, walk in. It's and the money that these vendors are paying and the money that the people that are showing cars are paying is going for expenses.
Yeah.
No one's making money on
Nope.
it. You know, like the only people that are making money are the vendors.
Yeah.
You know, people that are doing or the businesses in the area.
Yeah.
But as far as like, that's and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You're going to go and you're going to have this insane, globally recognized cultural experience for free.
Yeah.
Just on the cars alone.
Fuck.
If you see
But
the vendors
I do have a gripe with whoever's handling the music. Cause there's some, oh man,
The sound or what?
just the bands and the sound and just, I think there could be a lot better. Just not just me, like where our booth is sometimes it's like gets out of control, just trying, like I'd like to see the B-side players,
Yeah.
like stuff like that, in there or even, Tim Pacheco or just different cool local, DJs. Like there's not even a lot of DJs there, right?
Yep.
On the music stage, I think.
No,
Not
usually
typically, no.
Usually not a lot.
Yeah.
They're
Or
just kind of
any.
like real quick in between
Yeah.
band setup, but not any big long
Yeah.
DJs for
One
an hour
year
or
there
whatever.
was a rumor going around that Carlos Santana was going to play.
Damn.
There was a rumor. Everybody was. I remember hearing it. I heard Carlos Santana's supposed to come. Like, he's gonna.
What?
Yeah, that would have been the shit. So what else you guys got going? We're gonna probably wrap this up pretty soon. Like, do you guys have any shout outs or anything you wanna say?
Yeah. Shout out to my lady, Selena.
Qué bonito,
You know, of course, always giving me opportunities to come out and do things like this. Arts in National City, A Reason to Survive. We've been working with them on an after school program, working with youth, mural painting. And, that Aled, he came in with some students from Orange Glen High School the other day.
They did. They came through here too.
So shout out to him for doing what he's doing with that program, because like what they're doing at his school, how you were saying earlier, if we had a class like that and if I had a teacher like him, I probably would have been doing things differently a lot sooner.
Come on,
So,
bro, you're doing good.
I am, but like, man, like this dude's teaching them everything, like screen printing, large format printing, graphic design, skateboarding, like you name it. He has a full on print shop, and he has muralists coming in to decorate his walls, and he's bringing them on field trips like this. Like imagine how many of those kids had come to San Diego or to Chicano Park, and on their first time they get a tour, they see that sick brown image mural being painted, then they go to the tribal store, then they go to Salud.
Beautiful.
That's a school field trip.
And that you're absolutely right, man. What you were talking about earlier, just those experiences. They could show you, books, or they could talk about it and make you take notes on it and quiz you on it, but nothing's going to compare to the experience. They'll forget about that, what they had to read and memorize.
I bet for those kids, that's the highlight maybe of high school, like any one of those things. But they did all of that in one day.
And they had them in the tattoo shops. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Joey was talking to
Who
him.
was this?
Sergio. It was
That teacher's name is Aled Anaya. He's a local artist too. He teaches at Orange Glen High School.
Oh, okay. That's my alma mater.
Oh,
That's
no
my-
way.
Yeah, I actually was in that print class. It was ROP back then.
Yeah.
ROP print. They have it all set up now.
So that's he took over that program. I'll send you the page so you can see what he has now.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like it's impressive.
He did that badass mural in the handball courts, that black and green one.
Oh,
the Tlaloc.
yeah.
He did
no
that.
way.
He's sick.
That's cool. Yeah. If you can send me his info, that'd be cool. Like, reach out and see what I can do to help.
Yeah. Nice.
You already
That's
said
my
it,
shout
Johnny.
outs.
Yeah.
You heard it.
Three Punk
I'll
Ales.
edit that out.
Yeah, 3 Punk Ales.
Steve-O, man.
Steve-O.
Jeez, dude.
Champs.
That dude.
Emo
man.
Brown.
Yep. A double time.
Yep.
Go
Shout
for
out
it,
to my family, and hopefully there's a Chicano Park Day.
Yeah.
Cabrones after party. Shout out
Oh,
Cabrones.
shit, yep. There it is.
That's who you should have in
You
here,
get stuck to Rafa's.
or a remote.
If I
A
if
remote-
I could get him to if I could get him in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but it would he would be the one that I'm gonna hit him up and see if he'll do it. But he'll have some philosophical
Dude,
answer.
some of the most intense conversations I've ever had
Oh,
have
heavy,
been at
heavy.
the Cabrones Clubhouse.
Oh yeah,
You think you're just gonna go in there and be going
No,
nuts and partying?
no.
And, dude, you got some deep ass conversations.
yeah.
in there.
Especially if Rafa's there.
Yeah, with Rafa.
Right. Yeah. Who's as deep as him?
It's usually just him.
Just him, right?
or usually him, or if Richard Montoya
Oh,
is,
yeah,
is
yeah.
in town, like
Yeah.
we'll go party.
Oh
there.
yeah, then you're locked in.
Yeah, you're locked
Yeah,
in.
that's gonna take a while.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for sure.
But thank you guys for being here, for taking the time. I know you're both real busy, and Johnny as well. Shout out to the people from Modelo, Salud, Por Vida, Water Logan, just everybody here in the building, and Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
What's your guys' IGs real quick, so people want to see your work?
Our
Your-
website.
Mine's real Ricardo Islas.
the real one.
On
Real-
Instagram.
After I got hacked, I had to become the real.
Damn. He clicked on the link.
Hey, or Instagram detected something. You have to sign in.
I was working in Russia and China, and every time I looked at my activity, I was in Russia, I was in China, and
Damn.
so I had to. It got locked out, so I had to start.
How did they hack you?
I have no idea.
Did you click on a link or something?
No.
Because sometimes they tell you that it's Instagram. Like I seen it and I'm like, oh shit, and I kept going. They're like, okay, now you have to put in your password, and it says it's from Instagram,
Oh, damn.
and I'm like, nah, this ain't no.
Maybe the password's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Maybe, yeah.
maybe because I had the same password for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Real Ricardo Islas.
all right,
And mine's just at Chikle79. So
cool,
Yep.
right on, man. That's it. Lord Left Podcast, Bobby Tribal, Johnny Be Good, 17th and Island, San Diego, right here, and we're out.